From home, welcome to the March 29th, 2021 Exeter Select Board meeting. As chair of the Exeter Select Board, the governor, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town offices at 10 Front Street on March 26, 2021. As provided in that public notice, the public may access the meeting online and via phone. And we remind the public that the usual rules of conduct and decorum continue to apply. Please note that all votes taken tonight will be done so via roll call. I'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting and who that person is, which is required under the right to know law. Good evening, Selectwoman Lovey Roundtree-Olaf.
I'm here in room by myself.
Thank you. Selectman Darrell Brown, good evening.
Good evening. I am here alone in the salt cave.
Great, thank you. We have the clerk, Selectwoman Julie Gilman. Good evening.
Good evening. I am home. I'm not home alone. I'm alone in my room. Thank you.
Great, thanks. The Vice Chair, Selectwoman Molly Cowan. Good evening.
Hi, everybody. Alone here.
Thank you. I'm Nico Papakostandis, and I am also here alone in the room. Also with us, we have Interim Town Manager Melissa Roy. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone, and I am alone in my room.
And we also have our Recording Secretary, Joanna Bartel. Good evening.
Hello. How are you? I'm alone in my room.
Terrific. Great. Thank you. At this time, I will open up to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to make comment. We do ask, though, that if your comments are applicable to anything on the agenda, that you wait till that agenda item comes up. At this time, I'll open up. We have one hand up, Chetna Palmer. Good evening, Chetna.
Hi, Nico. This is Chetna Palmer from 17 Grove Street in Exeter. I just wanted to touch back in following the last meeting with the Select Board regarding the use of Swayze Park for the local businesses and including the Exeter Power Yoga Studio to hold outdoor classes, yoga classes as the weather warms up due to if the Select Board progress on this situation, Exeter Power can sort of plan out the summer scheduling.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you for your comment. You did ask a question of the board. I will answer it two ways. First of all, Swayze Park, there's a current permit process that would go through Parks and Rec and then come before the Select Board pertaining to the particular business that you brought up. And also we'll see later in our correspondence, we have several emails and letters. Town staff is currently working with the yoga studio to come up with some solutions. I spoke with Mr. Bisson earlier this afternoon, and he told me that he's still in conversation. So that's how I can answer that question.
So I know, talking to Tracy, that obviously, I think, again, the issues of, or the benefits of using Swayze Park as a location for yoga. Its location would be beneficial to the town and also for other businesses that would probably benefit from people going on from a class into town to get coffees and browse the other stores in town and to keep it vibrant. I know other places had been offered similar to the Town Common and Gilman as last year, but again, those locations are away from the town, and also the ground themselves are very boggy and not entirely suitable. So I know from I guess again the benefit of being able to use Swayze Park for the duration of the pandemic and for the town to accommodate businesses such as the yoga studio, to use a public space would be greatly beneficial. I think for the select board to come to a decision, and also, to understand that other towns, are supporting their small businesses and are waiving any fees that may have been associated with certain use of areas. We've got Newburyport, we've got, Ainsbury, we've got Portsmouth, and other towns are supporting that. And I think it's only right that Exeter does the same.
Thank you, Chetna, and I appreciate your comment. Again, much like last year, I'm happy to speak with the owner of the yoga studio. We met with her last year. I know that she's working with town staff. I would be happy to take that conversation offline and continue to try to help her out as best we can. As it pertains to the Swayze Park, there is a permitting process. There are fees. There is a Swayze Park trustees that would need to be brought in for a discussion. So, certainly that's something we can consider for a future agenda. I appreciate your comment.
So when can we, I'm talking on behalf of Tracy in terms of moving this along, and I'm sure, like I said, other businesses would probably also benefit from using Swayze Park. So how can we move this along so that we're not, again, waiting another 2 weeks before a decision is made whether businesses can use Swayze Park, which is not used during the day, without any fees? So, how can we get a meeting with the trustees, with other members of the town officials to come to an agreement that, the town will allow the use of Swayze Park without a fee attached to it?
Sure. So, go ahead. I was just going to say, Chetna, that when it comes to the particular studio that you're talking about, again, if you're speaking on her behalf, have her reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk with her again offline, meet with her, and also meet with Greg Bisson and Darren Wynnum as we did last year. As far as the Swayze Park goes, there is a permitting process. There is a fee that is associated with the permitting process. There are rules, there are language in the trust itself that prohibits commercial business. So there's going to be more involved to that. And it starts with a conversation with the trustees. So I appreciate your comment on behalf of the yoga studio, and I appreciate your comment regarding Swayze Park. I have several select board members with their hands up. And I will go in the order in which they were raised, starting with Selectwoman Cowan and then Selectman Brown.
I was wondering, has there been a permit filed? This is a question, I guess, for Greg or for maybe Chetna, if you know from.
I know the answer to that question. And as of this afternoon, when I spoke with Greg, the answer was no.
Okay. So is there a reason there hasn't been a permit filed?
Permit for using Swayze Park?
Yes.
I think that the conversation that Tracy's been having is obviously, she'd happy to submit the permit, but it's with regards to the fees, I think was obviously the crunch point. And as she explained last time, and I think other people raised comments as well, is with regards to the select board having, I guess, the authority to allow businesses to waive, or to allow the fee to be waived. And, businesses are suffering, there's been a lot of, people don't have a lot of money, and people have been restricted with their movements. And as we mentioned last time, the use of Swayze Park, its location, and the fact that it's,
I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that the conversation should start with a permit, because that seems to be where we can, as soon as the permit is filed, it goes to the police. There are all of these different steps that have to be taken.
Okay.
We need to bring in Swayze Parkway. We can waive a fee on a permit, but I'm not comfortable putting in a blanket, we're going to waive all of the fees for Swayze Parkway. Like I would entertain a case by case basis as we are in a pandemic. And I'm not debating that businesses have been suffering. That is not up for debate at all. And I'm also, I'm curious why that hasn't happened.
I don't know on the permit situation. All I know is that, Tracy's away this week, unfortunately. So I know she said she had been in touch with Greg at Parks and Rec, and I assume, and I don't know, but if you require a permit, she will be on board in submitting a permit for Swayze Park. So.
Yeah, so I would encourage that conversation, and I also think that a case-by-case basis is something that I'm absolutely comfortable, as we're going through the pandemic. I don't think that we can waive permits or fees for the parkway where there is a trustee and there's language in the trust that talks about you can't have business on the parkway, you can't sell tickets, there are all of the things that happen within that. But I think that the permit is the place to start. So that sounds great. If she's absolutely willing to do that, I would encourage that to happen.
Okay, I will definitely pass the message on and get it done.
Selectman Brown.
There's a question for you, Mr. Chair. So a process question. So if there's been discussions between Ms. Coviello and Parks and Rec, would we be presented with, it sounds like options have been proposed by Parks and Rec that are different from the options that Ms. Coviello requested. So when all that's, if we're the final say in the process, are we presented with the history of that? Or is it, I guess my question, it's almost like, is there an appellate type of situation where she made a request, or in theory, I'm assuming discussions have happened where the location is what's in dispute, and so if what comes before the board is sort of a next best option, will we be presented with the entire history of things so we can make a decision that's best for all parties? Because we can get, I guess that's it. Will we be presented as here are the things that were requested, here's what we proposed, and board, you can decide which of the two or some hybrid? Is that how the scenario will play out?
Well, I think that's a good question. And procedurally, if it's Swayze Park, it goes before Parks and Rec for the permit. It comes before the select board as it stands now because of the pandemic. My understanding in speaking with Mr. Bisson is that he is trying to work with her to present some other options, some of which may come back to the board for approval, depending upon where on town property it is. Some may not. But I think he's trying to work with her on what's best for the town's use of property and also what's best for her. But the answer to your question is if it's something that would come back to the select board for approval, then it would. And obviously he would outline, what brought it to that process. I think that answered the question.
Yes, it does. So basically he won't have veto authority over this permit. We'll be presented with the history of the whole thing and be able to make a decision that's just...
The permit would be presented to the board like anybody else's permit, correct?
Okay, thanks.
Selectwoman Gilman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to be clear because we're throwing out the word permit, but Swayze Park is not a decision that the select board makes, how it's used. That is a decision by the trustees of Swayze Park. All we have control of is the actual parkway, which is the road. So when a body wants to use Swayze Park, they need to apply through the Swayze Parkway trustees, and they're on our website. And as Selectwoman Cowan said, there's the list of rules of use and et cetera. And Dwayne, maybe you can correct me, but I believe there's a list of the fees for it. So the short answer is first we have to hear, if we're going to make any decision, first we have to hear from the Parkway trustees, and then we may not have a decision to make it up.
I want to get to Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf's question, but first for clarification, Selectwoman Gilman, the board took the permitting process back to the select board about a year and a half ago, and then delegated Parks and Rec to permit. So historically, up until about a year and a half ago, the trustees did get the permits, but the select board voted to take that back, and then we delegated it to Parks and Rec.
I'm sorry, I forgot that we included Swayze Parkway on that. So
yes, so the Parks and Rec, we also worked on the fees, and if you remember, we voted to allow up to 6 permits per year for one permit holder. So that would come back to the select board.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Selectwoman Rountree-Olaf?
Yeah, that basically was my question, because the fact that we also closed off the parkway without having gone through the trustees, I just want to make sure that we're consistent about the decisions that we're making when it comes to the parkway. And so I don't want to say that we're saying that's completely a trustee issue when we've also in the last year, because of COVID, made decisions that we thought were beneficial. So I'm putting it out there that if what we're saying, we have to be consistent in that language. So just throwing it out there so that we're not saying something and then, 2 weeks from now, because it's something that we all agree on, that we then decide that it works, in terms of us making a decision about the parkway.
That's absolutely correct. And just for historical purposes, back in December of 2019, previous Selectwoman Sermon and I actually worked with the park. We were charged by the chair at that time to work with Parks and Rec, and we presented, the permitting process and the fees to the board. And I want to say it was sometime in early January 2020 that we voted on the 6 events per year per event permitter, the fees, and then we delegated that to Parks and Rec. So that was the process actually pre-pandemic. Then we brought it back to the board just during COVID so that we could, we could look at the permits to be the final. But I would expect that once the pandemic is over, it would go back to Parks and Rec. Selectman Brown, did you just have another question? You had your hand up earlier.
I did. I'm not sure if it's pertinent. I was just going to ask, so do we control the parkway and then sway? But you've answered it already. So I think it was just a minutia of, if we control the actual physical parkway and we blocked it off, is there an option to, parse out, the actual pavement for events? But I'd rather just never mind, basically.
All right, thanks. We do have part of the public had his hand up earlier. Dwayne Staples. Dwayne, did you want to weigh in? If you just hit that mute button that you hit before, that'll take you off mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
No, I think you've covered the permit process and all. We as a board of trustees have not met to discuss this. So I think at this point, it's kind of in your hands as to where this is going to go until we meet and we can, weigh in on how we feel about that.
Thank you. I'd like to suggest once you meet, with your newly elected trustee, if you want to reach out to me, and then, if you want to come back and report to the board on your opinion, that would be great.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks. Shetna, you still have your hand up, but did you have one final comment before we move on? We have another member of the public has their hand up, and Ann Sermon.
Yes, hi, Ann Sermon, 14 Collinway. Just a quick statement I wanted to make. A little bit of confusion. The road, Swayze Parkway, the road going through it, this may have been made clear, but it didn't seem like it was, that is the responsibility of the select board, the road. And that's why you had the authority to close it, open it. But the actual the parkway, the greens, what goes on there, that was in the purview of the trustees for many, many years, and the chairman is correct. We did change that for permitting to go to the rec department. But I just want to be clear that the roadway has always been under the purview of the town. Just to be clear. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Sermon. Any other public comment?
Can I say one more thing, Mr. Chair, before we move
Sure,
on?
please.
I mean, I am really interested in helping small businesses and moving this along, so I don't want it to wait for another 2 weeks. So I think the sooner we can get a permit in, we can have a discussion, Parks and Rec can weigh in, the Swayze Parkway can weigh in. Like, the permit will force all of these things to happen, especially if you request a date that is sooner than 2 weeks. If that, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but that would be my suggestion for places to start.
Thank you. Chetna, one last comment before we move on. You have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you for that, Molly. I think I will. I'll relay the information to Tracy, and we'll get the permit submitted and take it from there.
Ms. Sermon, you still have your hand up. Did you have one last comment? Nope. Okay. Seeing no other public comment, I will close that. We do not have any proclamations or recognitions this evening. Next in our packet, we have the regular select board meeting minutes from March 15th, 2021. And I would ask if there are any amendments or revisions to the minutes. And if there are none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of March 15th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Abstain.
The clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. The motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. Okay, moving on. The first order of business for appointments does not require any board action. This was a memo to the interim town manager and the select board from the chair of the ZBA, the acting chair of the ZBA, Robert Pryor, notifying the board that the Zoning Board of Adjustment at their March 16th meeting voted unanimously to recommend that the select board appoint Mr. Esther Olson Murphy, who's currently an alternate, as a regular member of the board to replace Ms. Joanne Petito, whose term expires April 30th, 2021. Typically, the select board does not approve these or appoint these. They're usually done within the board. It looks as if they've voted unanimously to recommend that the board appoint Ms. Esther Olson Murphy. So as a formality, I guess we could entertain a motion to appoint Ms. Esther Olson Murphy, currently an alternate ZBA member, to be appointed as a regular member of the board effective May 1st, 2021.
Mr. Chair, could you just, what is normally not done?
Typically, when a board member is not going to be reappointed, or it indicates they do not want to be reappointed, that particular board would then appoint the next alternate in line, which looks as what they did. They voted unanimously to recommend that the select board appoints that, which in my experience, I don't know, it's Selectwoman Gilman or Selectwoman Cowan. Have you seen that before?
Not in my time, but it doesn't mean it hasn't happened before.
For me, it's been depends on when the term is up. If somebody leaves in the middle of their term, like in September or something like that, then that board appoints someone to sit in their place until the next term comes up in April, and then we make an official motion to change the status.
And that is not the case here. Ms. Petito is serving the remainder of her term, which will expire at the end of next month. So we can either vote to appoint based on the recommendation, or I could reach out to Chair Pryor and let him know that we've discussed this and that it's up, the ZBA can officially appoint whatever the wishes of the board are.
I think it would be great if there was a consistent
Yeah.
if this is out of the norm, it'd be great to put it back to them and sort of.
Okay, so I'll reach out to Chair Pryor tomorrow. Great. Selectman Brown, at our last meeting, we indicated that there had been a discrepancy in two of the votes for the Arts and Culture Commission, and where you were absent, we sort of held it because we wanted you to be involved in what we decided would be a sort of, I guess, a re-election, just starting from scratch. Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf made the recommendation that we keep the 7 regular members and add 2 alternate members, and the board agreed with that motion. So at this point, we have the same 9 individuals, and I guess the board was inclined to just revote and reappoint, and now we have 7 acting members and 2 alternates that we can appoint to the board, to the committee. Did you have any? You didn't have an opportunity to comment last time, Selectman Brown, so I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
I didn't. I'm happy to be a part of the process both times.
Okay. So rather than doing the voting method with the hands, and I would open up any other ideas, but perhaps we can just, we've got the 9 individuals, perhaps we can just make nominations to appoint, second the motion, and then vote.
I thought, Mr. Chair, I thought we were going to keep the 9 that we had, or the 7 that we had appointed to the board, and then appoint the other 2 who we said didn't as the alternates. That's what I thought you proposed, Levy, but maybe I
proposed that initially I proposed that we kept all 9 on the committee, and then the edited version was that we keep 7 and have 2 alternates. But the question at hand was that the votes were off. So regardless, we need to look at what the actual votes were because we didn't have accurate counts.
Yeah, I think my hand against my background, so my votes weren't counted.
Right.
No, you're correct, Selectwoman Roundtree, if you're correct, and I think I'd be more comfortable if we just started the process clean.
Yeah.
I think that'd be best. So are there any other suggestions of how to go about doing this, or should we just do it the old-fashioned way? If somebody makes a motion to appoint for a term, now we have staggered out. So we have 3 individuals for 3 years, 2 individuals for 2 years, and 2 individuals for 1 year, and then the alternates.
Again, I'm just going to request, because it wasn't in the packet, that we have everyone's name listed prior to our vote so that everyone can see ahead of time who they're voting for. Yes. Melissa, could you just read that off really quickly so that I can write that down again?
And I have it too, Melissa, if you don't have it.
Yep, nope, I have it. So on my list, I have Scott Ruffner, Amy Dawn, Ann Kennedy, Mary Page Provost, Anthony, and I can never say his last name. I know it's Calandrello. Thank you. Sorry about that, Tony. Bruce Jones, Dave Druin, Marissa Vitolo, and Todd Herron.
So David Druin, and then
Marissa Vitolo, and Todd Herron.
I think I'm missing one. Who am I missing? I have Scott, Amy, Ann, Tony, Bruce.
Oh, Mary Page Provost. Yep. Yep, no problem.
I'll start it off the way I did last time. I think I would make a motion that we appoint Tony Calandrello to a 3-year term.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, I'll make a motion that Scott Ruffner, 3 years.
I'll second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
I'll move to appoint Mary Page Provost for a term of 3 years.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
Selectman Brown?
I'm sorry, my signal dropped out at the name. Who is it?
Mary Page Provost.
Okay. Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to, what's the word I want?
Nominate.
Nominate, thank you.
Appoint is better.
Appoint Don Amy to a term of 2 years.
Madam Clerk, could you repeat that, please?
Don?
Yeah. Yeah, I move to appoint Amy Dawn. Sorry, I said her name backwards.
Dawn Amy. Dawn Amy.
Is it Donnie?
Oh, no, it's Amy Dawn. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. My apologies.
Amy Dawn to a 2-year position.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate David Druin for a term of 2 years.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
No.
Clerk says no. Mr. Chair?
No. Motion fails 2-3.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Ann Kennedy to the committee for a term of 1 year.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Nay.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Selectman Brown, I didn't hear your vote.
It was a nay. No.
Nay. Okay. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you, Selectman Brown.
I'll move to appoint Marissa Vitolo to a term. How many terms do we have? Are we down to the 1 year terms?
We have one for 3 years and one for 1 year.
No.
No, we have all
Nope.
our three. We have Scott.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. You're right. So 1 2-year and 1 1 year.
Yes.
2 years.
And sorry, Molly, which, I missed the name, sorry.
Melissa.
Marissa, thank you, sorry.
I'll second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says no. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 4-1.
I'll move to appoint Todd Heron to a term of 1 year.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
No.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 4-1.
And one more 1 year term.
I think, wait a minute, I think that's it.
No, it should not be because there are only people left.
Yeah, we have 2 left for 2 alternate positions.
Yes.
Okay. I'll nominate Bruce Jones for an alternate position.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Cowan. Sorry, Darryl. Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
I'd like to nominate David Druin as an alternate.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
No.
Clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 4-1.
Can we read off everyone's names and their term? Thanks.
Melissa, you want to do that?
Absolutely. So, sorry, I'm just writing my last one here. All right. So I have 3 years. Tony Scott Ruffner, Mary Page Provost. For 2 years, I have Amy Dawn and Marissa Vitolo. For 1 year, I have Ann Kennedy and Todd Herron. And for alternates, I have Bruce Jones and Dave Druin.
Great.
Wait.
We will have that posted on the website this week. Melissa, if you could reach out to Pam, and we will look forward to the first meeting being scheduled, and we will get to select board appointments later on in the meeting. But
I was going to remind everybody that Levy had already volunteered.
I very happily did.
All right. Okay, moving on to discussion items. COVID-19 update. Chief Wilking, there you are.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chair and board and guests and all. First, I have to apologize for the last minute changes from the report filed on Friday, but much happened over the weekend that we need to bring everybody up to speed on. And first was we did have a fire reported on High Street Saturday evening in a garage. It was quickly extinguished with minimal damage to the garage and the vehicles covered inside. And thankfully, no one was injured. It was noticed quickly and extinguished quickly. 30 minutes work and all's well back on High Street again. I wish I could say the same for COVID numbers. This past week, and again, you've heard it through the state, you've heard it federally, the numbers continue to rise, which kind of concerns a lot involved with what we've been doing. Not exactly sure why, but when I walk downtown, I see tons of people without masks on, moving around, and I honestly think people are just tired, looking forward to spring, and don't want to necessarily follow this thing through. So I pitch here to put your mask on, try to stay socially distanced, wash your hands, everything that's got us through the 14 months now, and hope that we can continue to vaccinate. But the numbers are moving. 2,300 positive tests in New Hampshire. I heard this evening on the news it was nearly a 10% positivity rate. Rockingham County said 6 deaths the past week, and Exeter alone saw 26 new residents test positive. So all trending in the wrong direction. So let's see if we can turn that around and get the numbers moving in the right direction as we push through the vaccinations. The report says the regional fixed site at the Exeter High School has been vaccinating over 900 people daily. I think 930 or 940 was their record, and there was a line, there was waiting that day, but the guard and the help there did an outstanding job vaccinating over 900 people. So from there, I'll change the topic to an agreement was finally reached between the state of New Hampshire and the mall at Fox Run. The regional fixed site will be moved to the old Sears store at what we all affectionately call the Fox Run Mall. And that has been in the works for about a month, just waiting to make sure that, as they say, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and that agreement would move forward. I know many who had appointments this morning as early as 8:30 felt it was kind of a short notice change, and I would agree with that. But the guard was notified on Saturday, begun the move on Sunday, and was ready to rock and roll today. And from all accounts I've heard, Assistant Chief Eison did visit the site today. All went smoothly out there, and all we should look forward to a smooth operation. One of the reasons moving to the mall is that indoor operations are far more efficient, less dependent on the weather. really easy numbers that we've seen. We can vaccinate a quarter to a third more people with the same staff it takes us to do exterior outside vaccinations. So just the sheer volume of people going through, it made sense to do it. That coupled with the fact that the high school is desperately trying, as well as the SAU, to get back to in-person learning as early as May, decisions had to be made to do it. So high school, we can't speak highly enough, has been an outstanding host. Has been a host now since January or late December, and it's really worked well there. But the move is permanent, or as permanent as an agreement can be out there. I have seen some posts on the forum and all asking if the high school ran out of vaccine and people just moved to the Newington Mall. The answer is that is your new fixed sites. We realize that it's a bit of a drive for Exeter residents and central Rockingham County folks, but there are options to go to Dover. There are options to go to Salem, depending on where you live or perhaps work. But the Newington Mall will be where the fixed site remains for the time being. You can receive both first and second dose shots there. I have also read posts asking what kind of vaccination they're likely going to receive. I have not heard that the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine is available at the fixed sites. I know it has been distributed through a lot of the pharmacies, but the fixed site tends to use Pfizer and Moderna. And just kind of as a PSA out there for everybody listening, because the state receives vaccinations at different times during the week and with different numbers in the thousands during the week, the fixed sites across New Hampshire tend to bounce back and forth between Pfizer and Moderna to make sure that we don't have old vaccine that would time out and cause us to throw up a quick pop-up clinic just to use 500 or 1,000 doses. They plan this out pretty well. There's really no way of knowing on your first dose what you're going to receive at the site. The guard kind of pulls out what's oldest on the shelf, still usable, but oldest on the shelf, and uses it. What I will say here is, if you received a first shot of Pfizer, your second dose is available. If you received a first shot of Moderna, the same. So there's no risk of you going out there and saying, "Poop, I had Pfizer the first time and there's none left." That doesn't happen. And the only thing they change periodically is the first dose for people. That will continue. Big reminder today, the governor announced late last week that all age groups have a time now they can register. If you are 40 to 49, you could register as early as today. Tomorrow will also be a day you can register without any other age group, if you will, bothering you. About 30 to 40,000 registered today in that age group. As of Wednesday, if you're 30 to 39, your date will start. You can register for your vaccine. That'll continue into Thursday. And as of Friday, the free-for-all begins. Everybody from 16 and older can register for their vaccination. And we're hoping this allows us to vaccinate all that want a vaccination in New Hampshire by a May 1st or that first week of May. We kind of set as a soft targeted deadline for that. So we're very hopeful that's going to be able to happen with the fixed dates we have. Those dates are out there. We are still helping fire EMS personnel with the vaccinations. We'll be sending people to the mall at Fox Run, just as we have for the past several months at the Exeter High School. We supplement the guard. And in addition to that, I'm proud to say that Chief Pizon and our people have done a fantastic job vaccinating the identified senior populations around town, and not only in Exeter, but the surrounding communities. We've been averaging a couple hundred vaccinations a day with senior housing. And of course, the week of March 15 to 20, with some help of other surrounding towns, we vaccinated nearly 1,200 teachers and staff of the entire SAU. That being said, the reason for the chat is it's like Groundhog Day. We're going to do it all again in April. So starting April 1, we're going to kick off the second dose at 277 Water Street, actually known as Swampscott View Apartments, and we'll be visiting all of our friends there again for their second dose. And we'll be making our rounds to the month of April to see that everybody receives their second dose within that 28-day window. So that'll be great. Big thank you to the SAU, to Esther and the office. The coordination with them and the schools was extremely helpful. It allowed us to focus on just the logistics of giving vaccinations and not worrying about the numbers, notifications, and who was coming and were the right people there. I was able to work well with the schools, and it was a true team effort to make all that happen. So I think we've covered all I need to think. I'll step back and pause.
Don't step back. Selectwoman Gilman's been patiently waiting with her hand up.
Hey, Julie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Chief. I didn't want to interrupt you, but just had a follow-up question on the vaccination rollout for our elderly population. And I know at one point the fire and police were keeping track of elderly individuals that were still living at home. And I was wondering if that's, in case of emergencies, power outage, et cetera, if you still have that, and if that's factored into this distribution.
We do, and we not only keep a list of those known to have mobility issues or tend to live alone that we can check up on during extreme heat, cold, power outages. Seabrook Station provides us a list additionally of people that have indicated that for whatever reason they would need assistance if and when anything ever happened at the power station. So we kind of cross-reference those. Along with that, we've partnered with the city of Portsmouth and Ken McNamara there. We've identified underserved populations as well as those still at home. We have not prioritized them yet, as many have not left the home in months. But as we catch up and we finish all of these vaccination rounds, the talk at the Public Health Network that handles the greater Seacoast is how now do we kind of move into the community and pick up the onesies and twosies? Do we do 8 or 10 a day in the regions, whether it's Portsmouth, Greater Hampton, Seabrook, Exeter? So that is absolutely on the front burner as we push through. It's just a matter of now logistically determining the best way about approaching those, we call them homebound, or those that haven't been out in the bits.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Julie.
Any other questions or comments for the chief? Great. Thank you, Chief Wilkin. Mr. Murray, good evening. Our health officer.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As usual, the chief covered most of it. If you see in your packet, I have included the mask mandate order once again. So it is time to just reinstate, if it's the will of the board, from today's date, March 29th, 2021 to May 29th, 2021. There's been no changes to the ordinance other than I changed the dates when submitting for the packet.
Okay, thank you. And I believe, Mr. Murray, correct me if I'm wrong, the governor just extended the state mandate, state ordinance 3 more weeks. Is that correct?
3 weeks at this time, yes.
Okay, all right. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I had a question. How does the state mandate relate to the town?
The state mandate and the town mandate are very similar. We've adjusted I think the age was one of the only differences when the state mandate first came out. We adjusted the age on ours to meet the state mandates, as well as adjusting some of the language for hearing impaired individuals. Other than that, our mandates pretty much coexist peacefully. There's no real big differences that would mean anything in terms of enforcement, anything like that.
And jurisdiction-wise, is there a need to have a local one when there's a state one?
I would argue that for instance, if the 3-week extension expired without any extension from the governor and we didn't act upon our mask ordinance, then we would not have anything in Exeter.
Correct. This does give us a buffer in case that the state mandate ends. It does automatically terminate if the state of emergency ends or if 61 days have passed since the mandate has been reinstated. So it does give us a couple kill switches as well. but it is kind of like a safety net in case the state does not reinstate their mandate.
Selectwoman Gilman.
I think actually you've already said it, that this will end when definitely when the governor declares that the state of emergency is over. We took a proactive approach early in the game to have the mask mandate before the governor did. And I am comfortable with extending this beyond the 3 weeks that the governor has decided.
Any other comments or questions? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to extend the Town of Exeter mask ordinance from March 29th, 2021 through May 29th, 2021 to be in effect under the language of the ordinance or until the governor of New Hampshire declares the state of emergency over.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
No.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Do you have any other updates for us, Mr. Murray?
Yes, not related to COVID, but Dragon Mosquito Control is our new mosquito control program in the town. They will be beginning their work starting April 5th, the week of April 5th.
Okay.
So they've identified, I believe, 77 sites throughout the town of Exeter that they'll be surveying. So just wanted to put out there to the public that if you do see crews working or driving trucks along the side of the road, going into the woods, that is our new mosquito surveillance and treatment program, and they will be starting soon. The season is starting a little early. We are still technically in a drought, I believe, and they expect that drought might continue, but usually the year after a drought, like we were in last year, is really heavy on mosquitoes. So in talking to their representative today, they will be getting to work right away, and hopefully it's not a bad year for us, but they're going to be trying to get ahead of it now. So just want to give that update as well.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Great. Thank you, Chief Wilking and Mr. Murray. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have an updated presentation on the Park proposal for Swayze Parkway, and we have Renee Allen with us tonight. Good evening, Renee.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Nice to have you back. Good to see you.
Good to see you and the rest of the board. So Renee Allen, High Street. I sent something to you in your packet, but I'm going to read it off for the benefit of the people watching. The ad hoc Park and Park Committee had a very successful public Zoom panel discussion on February 19th. The video, The Future of Exeter's Black History, has now been viewed over 700 times on Exeter TV. We'd like to begin to move forward with the creation of this Black Heritage Pocket Park. We have a preliminary sketch of our vision for a 2-bench area just inside the Water Street entrance to Swayze Parkway, as shown in these 2 images. And I'm going to put these up. And I'd like to say that I'm glad to see Dwayne here, the chair of the trustees. This is great. Okay. So let's see. This area is centrally located in between a concentration of former Black homes on Water and Green Streets, the location of the Baptist Church in that era, which is now the Folsom Tavern, and 3 former Black businesses at 127 to 129 Water Streets. And the American Independence Museum, which was the former New Hampshire treasury from which the Revolutionary War veterans were paid their pensions. I'd like to remind you that almost 10 Black Revolutionary War soldiers settled here, and that kind of seemed the genesis of this larger enclave that we had. Let me go down here. So here you can see a sketch that Jennifer Martell, who's on the planning board, did. She's a landscape architect. And this is just inside the parkway, and that brick building in the back is the former lawyer building, which is now there, owned by the Academy. Here it is a little bit closer. So it's simply 2 benches, a little pavement, A curb has been removed, and then some kind of little piece of art in the center, which is kind of smallish. I say, possibly it could be a sundial or something like that. Sundials were invented on the African continent, and they represent time. So I have some questions for you tonight. Okay, so questions 1 through 5, and I'm just going to say them, and then you guys can answer them all at the end. Does the closure or non-closure of Swayze Parkway to vehicles affect this project? Number 2, may we go ahead and create a formal architectural plan for the site? Number 3, may we create a call to artists to collect ideas for a small focal piece? Number 4, may we begin fundraising, which would include a pocket park maintenance fund? Number 5, what is your recommended timing for phases of this project? And then my final question has to do with this slide here. This is a sign from the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources, which is currently out in front of the town hall. And we'd like to apply for a sign similar to this that would, that would denote our standing as the highest concentration of a free Black population, including these Black Revolutionary War soldiers in New Hampshire. I'd like to note that the Exeter Historical Society would draft the text. And we're wondering if this could be placed in front of the park, on the sidewalk, possibly in front of Swayze Parkway somewhere. So thank you for your consideration. And please let me know some answers to these questions. Stop share. Okay.
I have one question, Renee, if I may. I know back when we first started talking about this, you were going to reach out to the Historic District Commission, Heritage Commission, and the Swayze Park. Have they all been in sync with you throughout this?
Yes, Morphe from the Heritage District Commission is on our committee. Okay. And I did ask Melissa and Greg, and they said that they were happy with the idea. They didn't really feel the need to be involved as their department.
Sure. Okay. And the Swayze trustees?
Yes, Dave Short, Swayze trustee, is also on our ad hoc committee.
Okay, great. Are there any questions of Renee from the Select Board before we dive into the 6 questions? Okay. I don't see any, Renee. So looking at the first question, I mean, right now the Select Board has been revisiting the closure of the Parkway to vehicular traffic on a 60 to 90 day basis. Usually it's been 60 days throughout the pandemic since it started. In terms of actually closing the Parkway permanently to vehicular traffic, that has not been discussed by the board formally. And before we could even consider that, because there is a trust, it would need to go through some legalities at the state level. And then providing that everything worked out well there and the public was had an appetite for closing it, ultimately it would have to go on the warrant. And it would be up to the voters as to whether or not to close the roadway permanently. You could also look at an option of opening it some days. I've heard some people, we've had lots of correspondence, both pro and con. Most people are in favor of keeping it closed. But those that are not in favor have offered having it one-way traffic, having it open some days, maybe putting a parking lot on the other side, on the Newfields Road side of the park, to allow folks that are not able to walk far distances to be able to come in and enjoy the parkway. So, where it stands with the road being closed, I mean, for now it's closed through June 30th of this year. That's the last time the Select Board voted on that. But I mean, for it to be considered permanently closed would take some time, and ultimately, if everything worked out at the state level, would have to come back to the voters. So that's kind of how I can answer question 1.
My part of the question is, does the closure or non-closure of vehicles or affect this project? Do you see it affecting it? I'm not really sure if it does or not.
I mean, I personally don't, but I would also ask the trustees, what their thoughts on that. If you're asking me, I don't think that it affects the project at all, the way you have laid it out here.
Okay. Dwayne Staples, do you want to chime in on any of this?
I'm not going to talk really. Dwayne Staples, 33 Ashbrook Road. Again, we haven't really talked about this as a trustee committee. I have heard from people around town. I have had some conversations with other people who have suggested that they'd like to see the Parkway Road open. My personal opinion is that I think we should look at a compromise, because there are people of the older generation that have always gone down there to enjoy the Parkway, been able to park in the shade, look at the river, look at the wildlife that's in the river, eat lunch down there, and they haven't been able to do that during the pandemic. My thought would be to make the Parkway Road one way, and possibly have a compromise of blocking off certain days so that it can still be enjoyed the way that it's enjoyed now. But again, we have not talked about it formally as a board of trustees.
So I think back to Renee's question, though, regardless of whether it's closed or open, the question is, do you feel that it would affect the project one way or the other?
I think I would have to be truthful, I'd have to think about that a little bit, because my concern would be the traffic with that curb cutout to allow people in wheelchairs or walkers to get up to that park.
Okay. Selectwoman Gilman?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a similar concern if we excuse me, block off the roadway forever, or long term anyway, then I don't see any problem with the layout of this, because everybody will be walking. But if we do open it up to some sort of vehicular traffic, then we really have to take another look maybe at the either the position of the park or other pavement to get to the park. Like the other side of the road has asphalt walkway all along the river, but this side of the road doesn't. So it's just, we'd need to get access from somewhere other than just the road.
Okay, yes, I understand that. There is potential for a second way to get into it aside from the curb, because I do agree it's a little close cut coming around that corner if the road is open for vehicles. All right, so the question number 2.
Renee, excuse me. Before we get to number 2, I know Melissa had her hand up. I don't know if she had. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to also mention, I realize we're not talking about timing at this point, but whenever this comes to fruition, we will need to take into consideration if the siphon project goes through and if there needs to be construction down there. So I just wanted to make sure everybody sort of keeps that in the back of their head, that that could cause some timing issues.
That's an excellent point. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, Renee.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to finally be having this conversation. Our committee has been meeting for 6 or 8 months, just kind of trying to get a vague idea together, but without a lot of concrete data. So if we do decide, do you think it would be worth it for us to go ahead and create a formal architectural plan for the site, because this is just what I showed you before is just a draft. We haven't really gotten into it. It's just one kind of idea. It's not the be all end all. Do you think it's worth it at this time for us to go ahead and get something a little more solid to present to you later?
My personal thought is I think if we have something a little more concrete, a little more solid to consider, I think it helps answer some of our questions, and we can better answer some of the other questions that are here. But I threw it out to the Selectwoman Gilman has her hand up.
Mr. Chair, I think the question is whether or not we're going to close off the roadway, because that will make a difference of where the place is sited. We might either have to or want to change it because of letting vehicles in or not. So I think we have to make that decision first before we decide on a layout or a recommended layout and design.
Could there be an alternate, Renee? Because again, if this were to be closed permanently, it does need to go for a town vote, providing that all the legalities through the state work out. So at the earliest, you're looking at a town vote next March. So I guess I would pose the question to you. Do you think it's worthwhile having two alternative versions to present?
Yeah, I'm sure that we could work two of those up. I think that we have our architect in the attendee panel. I saw her there earlier. Let me see. Yeah, she's still there. I don't know if they can put their hands up as an attendee or not. If she wants to weigh in, that would be Jennifer Martell.
She certainly can. And while we wait for her, Selectwoman Cowan has a question.
All right, and that's Ironwood Design for the background people.
There she is. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say almost entirely what you said, because I don't want, I am very supportive of this pocket park idea, and I don't want to get held up with whether or not we're going to close the parkway or not close the parkway, because that discussion or that deliberation is going to take a little bit of time, because it likely has to go for a town vote. And so what does that mean in terms of resources for you all? Like, can you come up with two plans that one addresses if we close the parkway, one addresses if it doesn't close? I don't know, but I don't want to get bogged down with the details, and I want to have something that we can move forward with.
Well, I think that Jennifer can answer that. She's the landscape architect.
Okay.
Hey, Jen, she has her hand up. Jennifer Martell.
Hi there.
Hi, Jen. Could you just state your name and your address for the record, please?
My name is Jennifer Martell, 23 Woodridge Lane.
Thank you.
I apologize. I have my corporate
that's okay.
up right now, so it has my logo up there. But unfortunately, I heard my name come up, but I missed the question. I was a little bit distracted by homework stuff. So can you repeat what the question was?
Sure. You want me to, Jen, we're just asking, can we make two designs for the park? Two more concrete designs. One would be if we can do the crosswalk and cut the curb if the parkway is closed. And the second being if the parkway is not closed, is there a secondary entrance that you could sketch up, like kind of on the side of the stone wall?
I'd be happy to look into that. I can't tell you sure without looking into it in more detail if there's another entrance to that particular location that would be appropriate. I know early on in the design process, we had talked about some other locations in the parkway where there's already crosswalks and curb cuts that might be more appropriate for the park. But I can't really say right now without really taking a look at it, whether there would be another appropriate entrance without cutting the curb where we're showing it now, without the parkway being closed, essentially. Did that answer the question?
So then a follow-up. So then we are assuming, or this design is assuming that we are closing the parkway?
Yes, in my opinion, I would not really recommend this location without a closure of the parkway. And the reason being that there's no safe crosswalk to the curb cut. So basically you're providing a curb cut without a crosswalk. It's not, that wouldn't pass muster with like accessibility codes and whatnot. It's just not safe from a pedestrian standpoint. You could always put another crosswalk there, but from a traffic standpoint, that's also not recommended to have crosswalks that close together. So there's not a lot of solutions for that parcel without closing the parkway, in my opinion.
Okay, and have you identified any alternate locations within Swayze Park in the event that the road was opened?
I would recommend so there are several crosswalks along Swayze Parkway that could be used. So existing crosswalks and existing curb cuts. The one that is sort of just north of this site, the next crosswalk up, there's plenty of lawn area there that I think could be used for this small piece of landscape.
Okay. So Renee, would it be prudent to maybe look at one alternative if the roadway is ultimately closed within that time frame that we described, or if it's reopened and you have an alternate site, is that worth looking at and bringing back a more detailed plan for the board? And I think, the answer to that answers the next three questions, because I think there's support here for the project. There's undoubtedly there's support for the project, but how can we do it best safely, within a period of time that works for you?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely, those options, and it does answer the next three questions. So in the interest of time, I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but, this is just another thing that's kind of delayed by COVID, and what can you do, Mm-hmm. But on that realm, it gives you a chance to really talk about a lot and really get people interested in the project and hearing about it. So I'm actually fine with it, but the last question, number 6, about the signage, is that something, if we were to apply for one of these signs, which would not go in the park, this is just something that goes, on the side of the road, these standard New Hampshire Historical Resources signs. If we were to apply for one of these signs, is that something that the board needs to vote on, or how do these signs appear in town?
I would defer to Selectwoman Gilman on that. She's our historic district expert.
Yeah. In the past, the few signs that we have around town have been addressed or applied for by the institutions that are there. I think the one right across at the American Independence Museum, that group went forward to the state to get the recognition. I think the town did the one out in front of the town office. The Historical Society did the one about Abraham Lincoln in front of the town hall. We had to accept it, I believe, but they did all the design work and the wording for it. In this instance, there might be a question about where you're going to have to propose a spot for it. Whether it's out on the sidewalk, which would get more visibility, or near to the park, wherever it ends. That might be their biggest question: is where do you want to put this thing? There's two questions. One is that you'll have to figure out, call first, and I can tell you to call, I'll send the name to you. I can't remember which person it is that deals with this. But call first before you put in the application, and they'll give you more detail, the Division of Historical Resources. And if not, if they find that it doesn't locate, they need a better location, then that's another reason to wait on getting a full-blown architectural thing. But alternatively, we have the Exeter sign. If you remember the blue one, that's out by the Great Dam or Great Bridge, and that's just a within town one. But the state recognition would be great.
Yeah, I think the state recognition would be great. And I really don't see this sign like on Swayze Parkway itself, because that's Swayze Parkway. This sign seems more to be near the Revolutionary Museum, because it's revolutionary themed. That's why I suggested maybe the sidewalk out in front of the Donahue Tucker building, or basically very near the Parkway. All right, so thank you very much. I don't want to take up any of more of your time, but you've given us some ideas. Do you have any other?
Yes, Selectwoman Cowan had one more question for you, I think.
That it's a question other than, I mean, I would be comfortable with you completing some of these things that you talk about here, the call to artists, fundraising. I understand that it's harder when you don't have a specific plan, but, you know, getting pledges or working with artists, I don't think, I think that just generates more excitement for the project. So I don't want to tell you not to do that.
Okay. All right. And actually, since we have Dwayne here, I'd just like to ask if Dwayne has anything else to say before we close off this subject.
Not at this time, thanks.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you. And I really enjoyed, I was on that Zoom call February 17th. And I hope that you do more of those as this progresses.
It's a good idea. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, okay, you put your hand down. All right. Okay, moving on to the revisiting the impact fees. We have our planning director, Mr. Sharples. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'll be brief because as most of you recall, as you may recall, at the November 23rd, 2020 meeting, Bruce Mayberry, the consultant the town hired to complete an update to our impact fees, presented the select board with proposed options for updating both the school and recreational impact fee schedule. The select board reviewed the fees, asked some questions, had a discussion, and voted to recommend the adoption of option A for both fees, the school and rec, as recommended by staff. The rationale behind recommending option A was that they were the most conservative estimates, and the town could always revisit them based upon future capital expenditures. The planning board then held a public hearing at their March 11th, 2021 meeting and voted to adopt option A as recommended by the select board. This process of going to the select board, then to the planning board, and then back to the select board admittedly is a bit cumbersome, but the ordinance requires both bodies to agree. And this is the process that was done the last time the fees were updated. So I just followed that. Maybe next time I'll go to the planning board, then come to the select board so they have the option of recommending and adopting at the same time. But now that both bodies have voted to recommend the adoption of option A, I would ask if the select board is comfortable to vote on the formal adoption of the updated fees. And as I did in prior memos, I did enclose Mr. Mayberry's basis of assessment and schedule of options for both the fees. And I did provide two motions in the memorandum that, if you're in a position to formally adopt the updated fee schedule, which as in the motion would be effective immediately. So we would update those fees starting tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Sharples. Any questions for Mr. Sharples? Comments? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion that the select board is recommended by the planning board adopt option A as the update to our school impact fees as set forth in the table in section H.1 on page 17 in the 2020 impact fee update. Public School Facilities, Town of Exeter, New Hampshire, dated October 16th, 2020 by Bruce Mayberry. The updated fees shall be effective immediately.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. I would then entertain a motion that the select board, as recommended by the planning board, adopt option A as the update to our recreation impact fees as set forth in the table in section A, executive summary in the 2020 impact fee update. Public Recreation Facilities, Town of Exeter, New Hampshire, dated October 16, 2020 by Bruce Mayberry. The updated fees shall be effective immediately.
Second.
So moved.
Motion and second.
Thank you.
Motion
Thank
and
you,
second.
Selectman Brown.
Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Sharples.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. And next, I'm scrolling through Mr. Mayberry's report, which is voluminous. Next discussion item is the New Hampshire DES Household Hazardous Waste Agreement, and this is just an updated version of last year's that I think the Select Board needs to move to approve, but I would turn this over to Melissa to just give us a quick overview.
Sure. So basically, business as usual, there's a small change in fee that you saw noted. And basically what we need from you tonight is just approval for me to sign on to the event. Well, not the event, but the day, excuse me.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments for Melissa? Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion that the Select Board vote to accept the Household Hazardous Waste Collections grant funds and to enter into a grant contract with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and further authorize Melissa Roy, interim town manager, to execute the necessary documents for this grant contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan. Aye. The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Melissa. And next, we're going to turn it over to Selectwoman Gilman to give us an update on several House bills that were brought to our attention last week by the New Hampshire Municipal Association. A week ago today, I did extend an invitation to Senator Gannon to join us this evening, but I have not heard back from his office. So Selectwoman Gilman has volunteered to kind of walk us through some of these bills that, if passed, could disrupt local government as we know it. So, Selectwoman Gilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to give you a list. I'm going to go through a list of different bills and keep the description very short. And then I'm going to show share my screen with that PowerPoint to show everyone how to go find the bill that you want to make your opinion known on, whether you support or oppose the bills. And let's see what I did with it. Here it goes. First bill I'd like to talk about, and I'm going to share this. Hold on. I'm going to try this. All right, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing I want to talk about is CACR 9, which is a continuing, well, anyway, it's a resolution that has to be passed by the whole House, and actually has to be passed by all of the municipalities in town or in towns. So it's a resolution that we're all going to. Everybody has a voice on. This is kind of nice, actually, but it's relative to municipal taxes, and what it is a 2% tax cap on property taxes and 1% for disabled citizens and senior citizens over 67, I believe. It's a little awkward because the finance department or tax assessor's office would have to know everybody's age. And it also, to be very clear, is not a tax cap on the rate that most tax caps are talked about. It's not on the rate of how we tax your assessed value, but on the actual tax bill. So you can only go 2% above what we paid last year on your tax bill. Now, what that does is really limit what we can do in the year going forward. If we have a big project to do, we have to calculate that into our those tax bills from last year, and we can only go 2% higher. So we have a $300,000 thing to do, but we can only raise the taxes by $250,000. Then maybe we have to make some changes to the town administration to get it to get under the tax cap that we need to do something. So it's really kind of personally, I've never been in favor of tax caps just because of the limitations that it causes. We may have to give up, paving roads, smaller police department, less people in public works. Let our infrastructure wait one more year like we've done for 40 years. So I would urge people to contact your state representatives about CACR 9. Right now, the House is meeting April 7th, 8th, and 9th. Those are the last days we have to work on any bills. So it's a good time to contact everyone. And I wish I could tell you there's a all reps button on the website, but that got taken down because people were violating the right to know law by discussing actions and with the complete body through email. So you do have to go and you can look at your county and when it says find your representative, you can select your county or your town. You can look at the committees, and I'm going to show this on further. So let me just go through the bills. The next one is HB 67, which is relative to official ballot towns, town warrants. And what this one does is if an amendment is citizens petition is presented and amended and then amended at the deliberative session, then both the original version and the amended version would have to go onto the warrant to be voted on. And if in the end that vote ends up being tied, then it defaults or it's deemed that the original warrant article was approved, not the one that was amended at the deliberative session. So there's a lot of arguments about the worth of SB2 towns, but this one is really kind of getting around it, making it a little less necessary, I guess. HB 111, which is the one that's causing a lot of hair raising, provides that municipal agents, and that's everywhere from elected officials to employees to even volunteers, any agents of the government, state, local, and school, may be named in lawsuits against the town. Now, it doesn't mean that you'd be liable for the costs. The town would absorb that, but you would be personally named. And I think that this is going to have a deleterious effect on employment and volunteers, because I don't want my name on a lawsuit. And it's really a mood dampener. I mean, why would I put myself up for this? And granted, whoever makes a claim has to show you were not acting in good faith, but just having your name on a lawsuit and having to deal with all of that media attention, et cetera. The other thing is that at the end of the bill, it says, and the town can fire you if you get named on a lawsuit. So, it's just a poorly written bill. I don't understand why they want to go through with it, but I think it will have a dampening effect. Next is HB 167, which is relative to net metering, which would allow us to increase to 3 megawatts up to 5 megawatts in one part of the bill of generation power, which would be great when we go through the solar array at the transfer station. That's going to put out more than 1 megawatt, which is our limit right now. So this one, HB 167, is a good one for us to have. HB 266, relative to the enforcement of immigration laws and the prohibition of sanctuary policies. This would prohibit every municipality in the state, from every governing body, from adopting or enforcing any policy or in any way restrict or discourage enforcement of federal immigration laws. Requires police departments to act as basically immigration and customs enforcement officers, and does not. And they need to be trained. It's required they be trained, but there's no money given to the towns to pay for that training. This one had, in my committee, we had 388 people sign in opposed to this bill. 16 signed in favor of the bill, and it was adopted out of my committee by a vote of 10-9. And I thought that 388 people on one side really should have made a difference, but it didn't. House Bill 341 is, here's where we're getting into affordable housing, and there were a lot of, affordable housing and density bills that went through that did not pass out of their committee. This one matters, gives a single, it allows outright, not as a special exception or variance or anything like that, any single family dwelling in a residential zone that's served by water and sewer to be configured as up to 4 units in various different configurations, whether it's in the one building or through 3 accessory dwelling units or 2 townhouses, something like that. So it really is taking over every town's zoning, and the state is telling us how we need to zone. And the object was to provide more opportunities for smaller, more affordable houses, and that's great. I just think it's a little harsh for the state to tell us how to zone the properties in our own town. HB 544, relative to the propagation of decisive concepts, defines certain divisive concepts related to sex and race, but it prohibits us from disseminating any information on what's defined there. It also requires a town to require contractors to have that in our contract agreements, which to me is a violation of their First Amendment rights, not to mention our own First Amendment rights. This is a troublesome bill. Another affordable housing one was relative to building codes for tiny houses. It defines tiny houses, requires water and sewer connection, and it's an enabling action. There were a lot of people that were not in favor of having tiny houses sprinkled about anywhere. So municipality would have to adopt it on a warrant article. So this is a zoning, unlike the other one, this one is a zoning issue that we can take up ourselves if we want to. And Senate Bill 130 is relative to education freedom accounts, which provides grants to students attending schools other than public schools. And that one has been controversial. There was a House bill similar to it that went previously and was retained, which means it'll come back next year instead of this year. But this one's going to come before us in a couple of weeks. Now I want to share how you can help us get through this. Okay, this is a shot of the House website, and I put some arrows with the important places for you to be able to find something and register your opinion on a bill.
We still see the other one that you were sharing.
Sorry. Looks good on my screen. Okay. Okay, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so this section up here is where, if you know the number of the bill, you can go ahead and type it in. HB 111 was the one we were talking about with the employees and volunteers getting sued. If you don't know the number, you can go to the advanced bill search here, and you can type in some text, and I'll show you in the next slide. the really important one is once you know the bill number that you want to talk about, is to click on this tiny little piece that says House Calendar, and it will tell you when the testimony is occurring for that bill and what committee, and there's a button to push for your position. This has been really helpful, I think, in getting more people involved in telling us what how they feel about a bill, rather than having to drive to Concord and sit in a meeting for 2 hours because the last hearing went too long. So this is, if you have any questions, again, please call me. So I did a search for HB 111. This is what comes up when you look for a particular bill. You can see over here, there's the docket and the status and the text. The docket will tell you the different dates that a bill went through and what the outcome was from that committee. And you see this one says a report filed. That means that the committee has made a decision. When you go to the docket, you can see what the vote on was, at 19-1 or 10-9 or whatever the committee is. So this bill is all ready to go, be on the floor to the House next April 7th or 8th. If you want to do an advanced search, you don't know the name, you don't know the number of the bill, but you want to know everything there is about housing. On this one, from the first page, when you clicked on advanced here, if you click on this one, and I'm using housing there because I'm all interested in all the housing bills, and you click submit at the bottom. And then you'll get a whole list, and you can see there's maybe one that you want to speak to or one you don't want to speak to. You see here that's retaining committee, means that a subcommittee is going to work in the summer, and then this bill will come back next year. Report filed means those groups, those committees have already heard about it. Now, I would love to be able to tell you there's a quick way to tell us all how you think. The easiest way is to get in touch with each committee. And if I go back, I think I cut it off. Yeah, up here where you can't see it on the general court website is committees, and you can choose standing committees. And that way you can get to every member on a committee at one time. So it's a lot shorter than trying to find 400 different emails. And the reason I'm showing you this now is because we are coming up April 7th, 8th, and 9th to the Sportsplex in Bedford to hear all these bills on the floor. And so the more information that representatives hear from you is the better. Please do not use a cookie cutter, cut and paste. If you have a group of people that feel the same as you, don't send us the same text over and over and over again, because then we know it's just somebody's personal cause. And I'll tell you, the representatives just delete them. They don't even look at them. Or they look at the first one, and then that's the end. And then after the 9th, it's called crossover, and that's when all the bills that have made it out of the House, have been passed through the House, go over to the Senate for the next hearings, and the same with the Senate bills come over to the House. So there's still more opportunity to discuss the House bills. At that point, it will be with your senators, and there's only 24 of them, so it's easier to get in touch with them than it is with the rest of us. And then the House will be hearing all the Senate bills by committee first, and then we'll go on to the floor. So I hope I've made everything really confusing and that you'll please join me in participating in this. It's really important thing. I think we've been able to take advantage of the pandemic to have more participation than I've seen in the last 2 terms. And I'm open to questions.
Any questions for Selectwoman Gilman?
I really urge you to go on the website and do an advanced search for a topic of your choice. Energy, you can see what's been submitted, what's made it through a committee, and what hasn't made it through a committee. So you can urge your representatives to redo this one next year, or pass this one now. This is the year for it. The more we hear, the better.
Julie, thank you for that very thorough presentation. I had two quick questions that would affect our town government. The first was the tax cap. If that were to pass and a town experienced, some sort of an emergency, would we still be able to go to an emergent town meeting to vote to appropriate funds?
I believe so.
Okay. And under HB 111, obviously, from a morale standpoint, nobody wants to be sued. But if that passed, that would also incur additional liability exposure for the town financially, correct?
Exactly, and then if we are actually sued, depending, I don't know how eager people are going to be to sue us more than they are right now. Mm-hmm. I don't think this really makes a difference on that, but if it does, then our rate's going to go up. Or if this goes through, I think our rate's going to go up anyway, just because of the possibilities ahead of us.
Good point. Great. Thank you. Okay, keep us posted, please. Mm-hmm. Okay, next, our last discussion item is the 2021 representation of select board members to committees. In our packet, we have a list of all of the boards and committees that we are representatives to, with a list of who's currently the representative, and then we can go down the list. The first one on our list is the planning board. Probably the one that meets the most often other than the select board, second and fourth Thursday of every month. Selectwoman Cowan served as the voting select board rep to the planning board last year. And I'd gauge interest from the board. Who would like to represent the planning board this year?
Bobby, housing is pretty close to planning, so.
True.
That's live, and please and no thank you.
I'm happy to do it.
I thank you, Selectwoman Cowan, because I was just about to, but I do have conflicts on too many Thursdays. That's why I haven't done it.
I nominate Selectwoman Cowan to be a select board rep, the voting rep to the planning board.
Okay. Any other interest? I don't think there is. Selectman Brown, are you still interested in serving as the alternate should Selectwoman Cowan not be able to make a meeting?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Selectwoman Cowan. The Recreation Advisory Board. I'm sorry?
Do we need to vote on that or no?
No, only if there was multiple select board members that are interested and we can't work it out, then we'd have a vote. But
okay.
The Rec Advisory Board.
What time does that meet?
It's the last Tuesday of every month.
At 7, yeah.
At 7? I could do that one.
Any other interest?
I am always interested, but I will also give it to Julie, and it will be in good hands.
Any other interest? Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf, are you still willing to serve as the alternate?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you both.
Tomorrow, you're it.
Ruh-roh.
Conservation Commission.
I want to stay on the Heritage Commission and the Historic District Commission unless somebody else wants to join in there. But doing so, I found the Conservation Commission to be a little bit of a weight.
Okay, is there any interest in the Conservation Commission? And when do they meet, Julie?
They meet the second Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
I'll certainly take it on again, but I found myself, they do a great job and they take care of so much. It's astounding what you end up talking about. And meetings don't tend to be very long. They're well managed. I just find that I have 3 meetings in 1 week is sometimes.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I appreciate you willing to take that on, but that's a lot of committees for one person.
I can take it.
So, Selectman Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll learn a lot of things, a lot of hidden things about plants and bees and bats and water.
And Julie, would you be willing to be the alternate?
I can do that.
Okay. Unless there's other interest, I'm sorry, I should have asked first. Okay. The Heritage Commission?
I will stay on that one unless somebody else wants to join and learn.
Any other interest in the Heritage Commission? Okay. How about the Historic District Commission? Julie had indicated.
Same.
Any interest? Okay.
And if you know any architects, please send them my way.
The Rockingham Planning Committee.
This one's interesting, Mr. Chair, because I sit on it as a state rep. So I can either do double duty. It doesn't meet very often. It's like once a quarter, maybe. I can continue to represent both if you'd like.
Any objection from the board? Okay, thank you, Julie. Swayze Park trustees.
I'll write that out.
Okay. I did speak with, I think Mr. Staples, you're still on. I think you were indicating that you'll be beginning to meet via Zoom on a regular schedule. Is that correct?
Correct. Okay. Correct. We will still do a few sidewalk meetings for Darius to bring him up to speed with some things that we've been doing down there. But yes, my intention is to hold Zoom meetings.
Okay.
And I'm going to be leaving you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Staples.
Thank you.
Communication Advisory Committee.
Happy to stay on.
Okay. Any other interest? All right. Thank you, Selectman Brown. E911.
It meets very infrequently, but I'm also, I mean, if anybody's interested, but I would also happily stay.
Okay. Any other interest? The Energy Committee.
I'm happy to stay there unless somebody else has a burning desire.
Any other interest? Okay. Facilities Advisory Committee.
Can stay.
Okay. Any other interest? All right. Thank you, Selectman Brown. Housing Advisory Committee.
I'd like to stay.
Okay. Thank you, Selectman Rangiolov. River Advisory Committee. I'll stay if there's no other interest. And the same is true with sustainability. I'm very happy to stay with that unless there's interest. Okay. Water Sewer Advisory.
Also happy to stay. There's some big stuff coming up, and I feel like I've put in 3 years.
Any other interest? Thank you, Selectwoman Cowan. The Police Stakeholders Committee. Presently, we have Molly, Selectwoman Cowan, and Selectman Brown.
It doesn't matter to me the order. I'm happy to be and I thought actually that we had appointed 2 full select board reps.
No, that's not accurate. Selectman Brown is a full member of this.
Yeah, and we're non-voting anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I would love to stay there, and it doesn't matter to me what the distinction is.
Just
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Does that particular committee have an end date, or is that a ongoing?
I understood it to be a scoped thing that had an end date, like a 6-month or.
We never agreed about an end date. We wanted to talk about, certain things that are happening in town. And I think what's happening with the discussions, as there is actually a lot to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, each topic brings up a new topic, which I don't know is surprising to anybody.
Okay, I was just curious. I thought, for some reason, I thought there had been one, but I guess I was wrong.
Mr. Chair, do you recall there was a scope set to that? Or was it?
We had talked about a scope. I don't know that we put I'd have to go back and look at the minutes. I don't remember setting a date per se, but I do remember the discussion going along the lines that there would be a finite period of time.
We haven't agreed to that or had any votes about that in the committee meeting. I think there was a goal to produce a strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that that's set within any time frame. And we also haven't said, yes, this is going on forever, or no, this is ending in 6 months. So it's not clear to me that either of those things have happened.
But the committee wouldn't decide that, the select board would, right?
I think the committee would want to weigh in with the committee to hear what their thoughts are. I mean, I'll be honest, I've watched all but 1.5 of the meetings, and they're really interesting. And I think, unless there's any other interest, I think it makes sense for Selectwoman Cowan and Selectman Brown to continue. It's a relatively new committee, and you've put, a lot of time and effort in. I think that whatever scope any of us thought, in watching the meetings, particularly the first 3 or 4, it took a while for the momentum to pick up, and you spent a lot of time, valuable time, putting the survey together. But I know that ate up, probably 3 or 4 meetings, just putting the survey together.
Correct.
So.
Mr. Chair, also, Ann Sermon looks like she has her hand up, and she's our chair.
Of course. Hi, Ms. Sermon.
Hi, this is Ann Sermon. I wasn't planning on talking necessarily, but you pretty much summarized it pretty well. I think our main thing was to go through those 5 goals, get to some final recommendation for the select board. But Mr. Brown wasn't incorrect either in saying that, in a way, it was something that the select board was going to charge us with. But we do have a finite notion in mind. And as soon as we are through the 5 goals, and we will come up with a recommendation from all that we've done, that it should be coming, and then, sooner than later. I don't foresee this. We didn't foresee this as going a long-term type of thing. And at our next meeting, we can certainly talk about that. But we're at the point where we're going to be looking at the survey results and that kind of thing. So we've got a lot of fun, not fun. We've got a lot of interesting things coming forward. So I just wanted you to know that we are looking at going through these goals and then having a report to the select board as a culmination. That was one of the things we were going to talk about. I just thought I'd jump in and let you know that, so you weren't struggling with it.
Great. No, thank you. I appreciate that. We'll look forward to that. I know I'm looking forward to the survey results.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So without objection, then Selectwoman Cowan and Selectman Brown will continue. Okay. Selectwoman Rountree-Olaf, you've been waiting patiently for a year. So unless there's any objections, that's yours.
I'll take it. Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Moving into regular business. Get to give my voice a break and turn it over to Selectwoman Gilman.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have lots tonight. I'm going to move to approve a tax abatement for MAP 110, Lot 13, Lot 2, Unit 13A, in the amount of $191.02.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Rountree-Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. I think you can condense the next couple into one motion.
Yes, I'm going to list all the different amounts though, because they're different years.
Yep.
These are all for map 104, lot 79, unit 904. I move to abate the following amounts. We should put the tax years on here. The following amounts: $877.93, $799.78, $605.09, $580.14, $613.79, $609.39, $609.61, $799.87, and $744.50. I do not know what that totals up to.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes. And I think we do the same for the next three.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, these I move to approve tax abatements for map 104, lot 79, unit 226, in the following amounts: $169.50, $277.97, and $222.86.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, next is just a list of solar exemptions. There's no money involved here. We have one for map 74, lot 8, map 33, lot 14, map 82, lot 24, map 24, lot 1, map 62, lot 50, map 73, lot 312, map 82, lot 5, map 104, lot 48, map 82, lot 3, map 63, lot 65, map 61, lot 8, and map 70, lot 57.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve veterans credits in the amount of $500 for the following properties: map 101, lot 37, and map 94, lot 15.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay. All right. Next, I move to approve an elderly exemption for map 104, lot 79, unit 323 in the amount of $152,251.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf. I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you. Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve an elderly exemption for map 104, lot 79, unit 221 in the amount of $236,251.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
All right. Next, I move to approve an elderly exemption for map 104, lot 79, unit 307 in the amount of $152,251.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve an elderly exemption or.
No.
Wait, let me finish. For map 104, lot 79, unit 911 in the amount of $183,751.
I second with apologies to the clerk.
Shall I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan? The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to deny an elderly exemption for map 52, lot 84, unit 10.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes.
Next, we have a land use change tax. It was actually income, but we have to accept the income. So I move to approve a land use change tax for map 72, lot 67 in the amount of $770.
Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Selectwoman Gilman.
Sorry.
Okay, next we have permits and approvals, and I believe Mr. Bisson is with us this evening. Hi, Greg.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I will just start going down your packet and go quickly, as you guys have been awesome tonight. First in your packet is a special event application from the Parks and Rec to hold their summer concert series down on Swayze Parkway. As you know, last year we moved it to the drive-in model, and we feel that with proper protocols and talking with James, we can offer the concerts back on Swayze in a safe environment with added signage and education for those folks that show up. We got on average about 100 to 150 people on a typical night on Swayze, so we're not talking large crowds.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve the permit for the following dates for the Exeter Parks and Rec to hold the summer concert series: June 24th, July 1st, July 8th, July 15th, July 22nd, July 29th, August 5th, August 12th, and August 19th of 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, Mr. Bisson?
All right. Next up, you'll see our athletic facilities permits for the following. I'm just getting to the memo here. I apologize. We had all three of our local sports organizations: Exeter Youth Soccer Association, Exeter Youth Baseball, Exeter Youth Softball, aka SAU 16 softball, and a specialty permit from a couple of our residents that are in our adult softball league to hold a cancer awareness softball tournament. They all submitted their application saying, instructing that they will follow state guidelines for youth sports and amateur sports. They all submitted protocols in which James and I reviewed, and we both approved these and would recommend approval by the board as well.
So are these different locations? I know the baseball is Rookie League. That's in Gilman Park.
Yes, they are. But most of them actually, Mr. Chair, are the rec park. That's the only outlier is Gilman Park Rookie League will be for Exeter Youth Baseball.
Okay. So I would entertain I would entertain a motion to either approve these individually or collectively, however the board sees fit. 3 of the locations are at the rec park, and the baseball is at Gilman. They're for different dates. So I'm thinking maybe 4 separate motions, unless anyone disagrees.
No, that's what I would recommend, Mr. Chair.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the permit for Exeter Youth Soccer Association for their spring 2021 program for the dates requested April 15th through June 15th, 2021, to be held at the rec park.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye, motion passes. I would entertain a motion to approve the permit of the Exeter Junior Baseball and Softball League to hold their 2021 Spring Rookie Baseball program at Gilman Park for the dates April 15th through June 18th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Okay. Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye, the motion passes. I would entertain a motion to approve the permit of the SAU 16 Softball League to be played at the rec park for the dates requested April through September 2021.
So moved.
I'll second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye, the motion passes. And finally, I would entertain a motion to approve the permit for the Mary and Jackie Cancer Awareness Tournament to be held July 17th and 18th, 2021 at the rec park.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Bisson, moving on.
Excellent. All right. Next up is our ADA lift, pool lift request. As some of you that have been on the board may recall, I came in a couple of years ago when I assumed the recreation director's position, requesting funds to install the ADA lift that we had purchased back in 2010, the year that the law came into effect that we needed to have an ADA lift. Well, working with Public Works and a structural engineer, it came up that we would have to do extensive renovations to the pool deck and the pool wall to install the current ADA lift, with estimates coming in at $21,000 to $24,000. That made us take a step back and look, and we did research and came up with a better solution. We found models that actually could be mounted normally into the pool deck without ruining the structural integrity of the pool, as well as being a lot cheaper than the quotes that came in at $21,000 to $24,000. I am requesting that we authorize to expend up to $7,416 out of the Park Improvement Fund to contract with Always Accessible Inc. of Concord, New Hampshire, purchase the Aqua Creek Scout XL, which is actually made for the extended reach to reach over the lip. The 1984 renovation of the pool made it very difficult when it put that gutter system in to come up with a solution. So this was our best alternative, and it would be great to get this going immediately, because hopefully pool season will be upon us sooner rather than later. And we would love to be able to be compliant.
Great, thank you. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend up to $7,416 out of the Park Improvement Fund to contract with Always Accessible Incorporated from Concord, New Hampshire, to purchase and install the Aqua Creek Scout XL at the Daniel R. Healy Pool.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Bisa on the fireworks.
Yes, as you know, our fireworks in 2020 were canceled because of the pandemic. We are looking at starting the process. We know that the board is hesitant and we want to take this seriously as we see the numbers that Chief Wilkins presented, that the numbers are going up again. So what we are presenting is, or wanting to have a discussion with the board, how they feel of holding it. As we know, the fireworks are by far the largest single event attended in one particular time. Yes, the Independence Festival brings in people over a longer period, and the powder keg brings over people over a longer period. But for 1 to 2 hours on Swayze Parkway, we could have 6,000 to 7,000 people down there. So what we are proposing is having the ability to start the process and come back to you as a board in June to make a decision if we want to move forward with the July 10th. Alternative dates I have presented. One of the things that Melissa and I spoke about is offering it, if we wanted to postpone it to allow more time for vaccinations to happen, is maybe doing a Labor Day summer kickoff or summer end celebration with school going back to normal on September 4th. Possibly doing it in October for a fall festival type of atmosphere on October 2nd or October 9th. Open to discussion. We wanted to bring it to the board because this is a tedious process to go through as we have to work with the Exeter Fire Department as well as the New Hampshire State Fire Marshal.
Thank you. Selectwoman Gilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a couple of thoughts while I was looking at this list, and that just reminded me when you said Labor Day weekend. That's the weekend that the UFO Festival usually takes place. So it might be a nice conjunction. I don't know if they're doing it this year or not, but that's something to think about. But my other thought was, why not save this until New Year's Eve?
Julie, good question. In my experiences, winter fireworks displays are somewhat problematic. One, if we're fortunate enough to actually have snow on New Year's Eve, getting access to where we shoot it off near Powder House would be difficult. Two, people don't realize actually in the winter, fireworks displays don't go up as high. Mm-hmm. So you have to be closer to the fireworks display. I learned that the hard way in my first rec job, and I wouldn't want to repeat it as well here in Exeter.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions from the board? Mr. Bisa, what are the state guidelines currently, and what might we anticipate by July?
Currently, Mr. Chair, actually, there are no state guidelines for fireworks. It goes under the universal guidelines of mass gatherings. Mm-hmm. So right now, as currently written, masks are required, socially distancing, which could change by July 10th. So that's why we wanted to start the process and come back to you in June to re-examine how things may change in the state, as we don't know where we're going. But I know you've extended the mask mandate now, so that, for at least in our town, that's one step. But talking with James, It would fall similar to fairs and festivals, which would make it very difficult, but those are, again, being rewritten as we speak, probably. So we are expecting drastic changes, but as of right now, there's nothing written for fireworks displays. Okay. And to give you guys a better sense, we did a poll for our State Association of Parks and Recreations, and about 40% of them are still undecided of towns holding fireworks displays. 30 are going forward with their fireworks displays, while the rest, the 30%, don't hold fireworks.
Okay. What about locally?
Locally, if you've read the papers, Hampton plans on having a normal summer, so they'll be having their Wednesday night fireworks displays every Wednesday. But none have announced any of their 4th of July yet. I know, speaking Rochester, I know not as local, is moving forward with their fireworks displays. I believe Northampton may be doing it as well. So we've been monitoring a lot of the towns that offer them, and some of them are still up in the air. That's why it's better to start the process and have a alternative date written into the RFP. So if we want to make that change, we could easily make that change with giving them a month notice.
In your experience, is that fair enough notice? 30 days?
Yes, 100%, Mr. Chair. We, right, in typical years, a rain date anyways. So, because we need to plan ahead, because loading in the fireworks are no easy feat. So if it's even a chance of rain at night, we usually make a call pretty early. So giving them a month's notice with a rain date of that date will be plenty of time for them. And there's usually 3 or 4 vendors that only bid. There's not many fireworks vendors out there that are to this magnitude, Atlas being one of them. Is our biggest one that's gone them, but we have quite a few others that may be looking and will provide us the flexibility that we need.
Okay. So tonight you're just seeking select board approval to begin the RFP process, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions for Mr. Bisson? Selectwoman Gilman?
Nope.
Would you like to make a motion since you're off mute?
Do we need a motion for this or just a consensus? Would you be more comfortable with a motion?
I could go either way. I mean, it would be up to the board. I mean, it's just issuing an RFP.
Yeah, we don't vote a lot on those.
Any objection from the board to not go forward with the RFP process? Okay. Go ahead, Greg, and then just keep us posted.
Will do. And I will be back to you in June once we have all of that settled. All right. Next on is a change order. Last meeting, or 2 meetings ago now, I can't remember. They blend together. You approved approval to replace the roof at the pavilion at the rec park. Well, we encountered a lot more damage than we had presumed. A large portion of the roof was rotted, so a lot of sheathing had to be replaced, and all of the trim work was not salvageable. We really had hoped to at least keep some of the trim work up there, but that was thoroughly rotted, so all of that had to be replaced. So the roofers did donate their time, but as you can see, the cost of lumber has skyrocketed, causing a $1,665 overage. So we would need a motion to expend that out of the park improvement fund.
Okay. Any questions or discussion for Mr. Bisson? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend an additional $1,665 out of the Park Improvement Fund to contract with Refine Roofing on replacement of the trim on the Recreation Park Pavilion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown,
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan, Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
And in that same theme, Mr. Chair, our next step is to preserve all that new trim and the new sheathing underneath and to brighten up the pavilion. We are recommending we got 5 bids, as you can see, ranging from $3,100 all the way up to $6,769. We recommend going with McGinnis Custom Solutions, formerly 5 Star Painting, who actually painted the new pavilion at Gilman Park. We're looking to have $3,100 out of the Park Improvement Fund to paint the pavilion.
Any questions or discussion? If not, then I would entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend $3,100 out of the Parks Improvement Fund to contract with McGinnis Custom Solutions to paint the Recreation Park Pavilion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes. Is that it, Greg?
That's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
All right. Town Manager's Report. Melissa, I don't know if you have anything tonight.
Nico, I'm sorry you cut out. Are you asking if I have a town manager's report?
Yes.
Okay. I don't really have anything to report. All I would like to say is I continue to thank the department heads that have been nothing but gracious and wonderful, helping keep everything going. And quite honestly, Mr. Chairman, all of your help and support as we go through this. But nope, I don't have anything else.
Any questions for Melissa? All right, great. Thank you, Melissa. Select Board Committee reports. Let's start Selectman Brown.
Yep, I didn't attend the Facilities Advisory Committee, but read their minutes. We're meeting again this week, but there was discussion about the RFP for the Public Safety Initiative. So they're planning to meet with the chiefs and someone else, BRC, and figure that out. And then they're also waiting on the debt servicing information from the town manager so they can figure out timelines for other facilities in town. And then Police Stakeholders Committee, we met and heard from the FTO, Field Training Officer, and his measures for professional development, and which is all towards retention. But Officer CRAD, that's it. So Facilities Advisory this coming week, and then police stakeholders next week.
Great. Thank you very much. Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
So the Housing Committee has not met since the last time I saw you guys. We did have, the Swayze Parkway trustees had an emergency meeting yesterday to go and check out a woodpecker that's been boring holes in a tree behind the Harrison Center. So we'll see how that plays out. Other than that, nothing else to report.
Great, thank you. Selectwoman Gilman.
Clearly, since I was muted, I have nothing to report. It's true, I have nothing to report.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Yep, we had planning board on Thursday night. We approved conditions for the Ford dealership on the corner of Portsmouth Avenue and oh my God, what is the name?
Holland Way.
Holland Way.
Yeah.
To go forward. So that happened, and then we approved a small adjustment for a private resident.
Great, thank you. I did not have any meetings. I have Sustainability Committee next Tuesday. So We've got quite a bit of correspondence. We'll try to get through here quickly. The first was from the Rockingham County Commissioner outlining some of their achievements over the past year, including a county tax decrease, enhancements to law enforcement programs and corrections to reduce and enhance life skills, new revenue source, and a grant award. And we received several pieces of correspondence of thanks. The first was from the court-appointed special advocates thanking us for our donation of $1,500, and also from the Richie McFarland Children's Center for a donation of $10,000. We also had correspondence regarding keeping Swayze Park closed to vehicular traffic. We had a piece of correspondence advocating for the food trucks based on our conversation in our last meeting. We had 22 pieces of correspondence in support of yoga in Swayze Park. And last, we had correspondence from Neil Blakeland. And I just want to verify for the record, Neil wrote of meeting with several select board members, including me. These meetings were all held separately, so there was no violation of 91A. I know he met with me, and he indicated that he met with Selectwoman Roundtree-Olaf and Selectwoman Cowan, presumably separate meetings. And I think Selectman Brown, he was reaching out to meet with you sometime soon, if he hasn't already. And that piece of correspondence brought up some interesting points that I think we will add to our agenda at some point for a discussion item on boards and committees. So more to come on that. Reviewing the board calendar, our next two select board meetings scheduled for April 12th and April 26th. I also spoke of having our goal setting workshop one of the Saturdays in April. I was going to throw out the date of April 16th, and I'd ask for consideration of the board if you know your schedules now, or if you want to get back to me independently on email, but I'd like to get that scheduled sooner than later. Do members of the board know their schedules from now, or do you want to get back to me?
Mr. Chair, is that a Friday?
April 6th, I believe it's a Saturday.
Friday.
It's Friday.
My mistake, then April 17th. Thank you for the clarification.
That's fine with me.
I mean, it would sooner be problematic if we did the 10th.
I'll be very tired, but no.
Doesn't work for me.
Which one?
The 10th.
And I work every Saturday. Today is my only
I
day.
also work on Saturdays, so.
Okay. Typically, it's been done on a Saturday, but we don't have to.
Sundays.
The other thing to know is that we when did we start at like 10? We had lunch. We could start early and leave early. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, we met at the senior center for coffee. I think we were done in under 2 hours. I don't think it took. It's essentially the opportunity, it's an open meeting, it's posted, the public could theoretically come, but it's the town manager and the 5 select board members, setting our goals and objectives for the coming year. If Saturday is not a good day for people's work schedules, is there a better, we could do it on an afternoon or an evening, Sunday, throw it out to the board. I'm flexible, so I'll try to work around you.
Does Sunday the 11th work at all? I'm just trying to.
Yeah, evenings could work for me. Anytime after 7 on a Saturday, anytime after 4 on a Sunday.
Sunday's fine.
And what time Sunday, Selectman Brown?
Anytime after 4.
Or would the board prefer doing an afternoon or evening during the week?
That not super hard.
Okay. So that would be Sunday, April 18th.
I'm just saying things are getting busy for me for the weekends after this. So I was hoping that we could get it done sooner. If the 11th doesn't work, does the 11th on the Sunday work for anyone or no?
Yeah, works for me.
Works for me.
I can't until after the 13th. Then my weekends are clearer.
Yeah, mine uptick. So then a weekday.
So that's why I'm wondering if a weekday is a compromise.
Yeah, I can do a weekday if it's later in the like if we do a meeting time this time frame, I'm done with work by 6:15 the latest.
My Mondays are reserved for select board meeting, so we don't have a select board meeting next Monday, so I could do then.
That's April 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Unless somebody's celebrating Easter Monday.
Is that a thing? Probably a thing.
Yeah, for somebody.
Not for, I mean, Easter Monday is okay for me.
I can do that.
I can do that.
Yep.
Daryl, what's the earliest you can do?
The earliest I could do is 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Monday, April 5th.
Okay, I can get coverage, I think. Because we have games on the weekends, so that's harder.
Did we say Monday or Sunday?
Monday, April
5th, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Or later? Is later better?
Since I'm the one who had the most difficulty, I'll be flexible with that time frame.
Yeah, later is fine for me.
5 o'clock works for me.
Fine.
So, go ahead. That's good, Selectwoman Gilman? Okay.
Yeah. Daryl, do you need it to be later?
Nope.
Okay.
Is Selectman Brown, is 5:30 better? Or?
Yes, it is.
Right. Any objections to 5:30?
No.
Okay. The next question is the comfort of the board. Do we want to try to meet live, socially distanced, or do we want to do this over Zoom?
Whatever works for the majority, I'm fine with.
It's really nice to see people's faces when you're talking about these kind of things. Like, you know, so you can see all of them at one time. I would be willing to try an in-person one, maybe in, well, I don't know where's the best place.
Well, we could. I know when we were working on the election for the September election, the town moderator held a meeting in the Novak room. There were 7 of us all seated distantly with masks on, and that was, we got 7 people in there comfortably.
I'm game for that. We can open a window or two and face out and call it a day.
Is everybody okay with that? Because I agree. I think for something like this, it's better to see, and there's less interrupting unintentionally when you're live. You can anticipate someone speaking. So is that good with everybody? Okay. So Melissa, if you could have Pam post that Monday, April 5th at 5:30 for select board working session. Great. Thank you, everybody. And I appreciate everybody's flexibility. Okay. And then the 12th and the 26th for our regular meetings. I know it's late, but I would entertain a motion to enter into non-public session very briefly to discuss wage information.
Mr. Chair, I move we enter into non-public session under RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 1A.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. We'll move into non-public and then return here to adjourn.
probably like 6 Zoom requests sent in the last 3 hours. And I'm like, which one is it? Which one is it? Come on, Julie.
I feel the same way.
Come on, Julie.
And she's got to take the role.
I think I purposely flagged this meeting and the one Melissa sent out. So I was like, okay, I can find this quickly.
I'm wondering if she's on the wrong meeting. I don't know if anybody has.
I was just going to say,
I just forwarded it to her.
Thank you, Lovey.
Yep. I was like, yeah, so close.
here I can text her too.
In the meantime, I would encourage you to reach out to your electeds about especially HB 111.
Yeah. Her computer isn't connecting.
Can we just adjourn the meeting?
I will, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Selectwoman Cowan is the vice chair. Would you take the roll?
Sure. Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
I say aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.